pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Calling the meeting to order and reminding everyone that this is a public meeting. We're keeping a written and a visual record. First thing we have on our agenda today is awards, recognition, and correspondence, and I would like to call upon Norma Barber, who wishes to say something. You want to come right up here to the mic, Norma, and tell us who you are and your address.
I'm Norma Barber. I have to think about my address. Used to be up the hill to the right, last house. Now we have street names. 308 East Despain Street, Ukiah, Oregon. I'm here to say thank you. In the last couple of weeks, Ukiah has had a couple of tragedies. And, well, let me tell you, sometimes South County, we sometimes feel like we aren't really part of the county. We're closer to Grant County. Of course, they don't care about us. Sometimes it feels a little that we're so far removed from the center of population that sometimes, we're the red-headed stepchild. But in the last couple of weeks, we've had some tragedies. And so quickly, the county sheriffs responded. So very quickly, coroners responded. We felt support. I felt like my kids at school needed some counseling. Within seconds, the county health department was calling me back, telling me we have counselors ready. They'll be there tomorrow. I just need you to know that we don't feel like the red-headed stepchildren right now. We feel part of the county. We feel cared for. We feel supported, and we thank you. Thank you. I'm going to leave because I need to go to a meeting, so thanks.
You might share with them your other hat.
I sometimes run Ukiah School.
Thank you, Norma, very much.
Thank you,
Thank you
Norma,
for
for
taking
being
time
here.
to come. All right, anything else, gentlemen?
No, I'm certainly not going to top that.
Okay, all right. Minutes of the previous meeting, August 21st, 2019.
Mr. Chair, I move approval of the minutes.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, okay. Any additions to the agenda?
No, there aren't any.
I will move item 8 to item 1. Any public input and recognition of visitors? Anybody who wishes to speak other than something on the agenda? Not, we'll move to item 8 is now number 1. Mr. Premise?
So good morning, and thank you for your time. So we are requesting an additional position in our office, specifically to our Victims Assistance Program. Currently, we have 3 full-time Victims Assistance specialists, one being our director, one being a Victim Assistance Specialist here in Pendleton, and then one that works out of the Hermiston as a bilingual specialist. Our department, our victims department, is completely paid for and funded through grants. There are 3 different grants that fund this program. 2 that I'm going to speak of specifically are our VOCA grants, one being a non-competitive, one being a competitive. The competitive aspect is where our bilingual advocate comes from. The non-competitive pays for the other victim assistance specialist as well as part of our director. This year, as of October 1st, we saw an increase in that non-competitive portion. I believe it's a $179,000 increase in that area for the non-competitive aspect. What we are trying to do is add a half-time position to this program to help alleviate some of the workload on the advocates that we have right now. This individual will be would be stationed out of the Hermiston area, working roughly 20 hours there in the Hermiston area, assisting with our our Hermiston deputies and victims over there, allowing our bilingual advocate, who has been working primarily out of Hermiston, to work both Hermiston and Pendleton specifically for our grand jury proceedings, so he can be here in Pendleton during those portions of his, I guess, where we need it at that point in Pendleton, and alleviate his workload over there. If there are any questions, I could try my best to answer those questions.
This is grant funded, right?
I have none. I've already met with Mr. Primus on the
Robert,
matter.
did you have a question?
The question I would have is, what time period does that grant cover?
It is a 2-year cycle, so it starts October 1 of 2019.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chair, I move approval.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, back to number 1. We'll move expeditiously through the community corrections plan.
Exponentially as well.
I'm not familiar with that.
Good.
How well we know.
Oh, geez, it already starts. Morning, Commissioners. Dale Primer, Director, Umatilla County Community Justice. So, I think where you're getting at with your expeditious comment has to do with my budget presentation and the PowerPoint that really kind of walked us through the process that really comes to at least an end for now with this process. So,
And the blackboard?
no, the Blackboard is a ever-evolving thing, so if you're ever interested, come visit. So let me just recap where we've been in the last few months. So, as you know, the counties enter into a partnership every biennium with the Department of Corrections and the state to deliver community corrections services. We're funded through the state. We are operated through the county. Every session we go through, we argue for our budget, and in this particular one, we've taken some substantial reductions. So to kind of frame that, in the 17-19 biennium, the state allocation formula for Umatilla County was $6,291,585. This biennium, it's $6,178,279, a net reduction of $113,000. While on its face, that doesn't appear to be a large sum of money, but when you add in the increases in personnel contracts and materials and services, it works out to about a $500,000 reduction for me. So we've taken a variety of responses to that are reflected in this plan. I don't know that I need to get into every single document within this plan and what's changing. I think I'll hit the highlights, and then if you guys have some questions, we can go from there. So in terms of reductions, we had one vacant PO position that's going unfilled. We had one PO aide that we used to deliver cognitive behavioral treatment that's going to go unfilled. With this reduction, it's also impacted my ability to backfill the Justice Reinvestment Grant to bring those budgets into balance, and the result of that is one person that was working out of the jail to do assessments. The position has been eliminated, and I will be having conversations with our local providers to try to backfill some of that service. At the end of the day, we're still $100,000 short in funding our drug court, and conversation related to that continues. And then I guess if there's a bright side, the idea of community corrections funding remains on the table, and I understand that it'll be a topic of conversation in the February session. So I think as a county, between the board, myself, the sheriff's office, and other interested parties, we need to continue the pressure with our local legislators to honor their commitment under Senate Bill 1145 and to adequately fund this. Just as a way of reminder, that was always the commitment, that counties would deliver the service with a belief that a local control model would better meet the needs of the uniqueness of each community, and the state would fund it at its defined current service level. And when I say current service level, they also agreed that every 6 years there would be an actual cost study to adjust those dollars to maintain with current operation standards. The last fully funded cost study was in 2006. In 2012, they funded about half of it. In this particular session, they chose to fund none of it. I would argue that this is not a lack of information. This was a choice they made. And I think there are a variety of communities right now that are applying some pressure on what they think related to that. Last, you'll notice in the biennial plan, we go through a variety of different things where we do traditional strategic planning kinds of processes where we set mission and vision and long-term goals and short-term goals. In this particular one, we've left our goals unaltered at this point. The reason for the timing of getting the plan out before those things are complete is I want to get the plan in before the next funding quarter so that we can receive our actual allocation. But I do have a process in place now where I'm working with a couple retired directors out of Multnomah County that have come in and doing some evidence-based evaluations of our agency, and so far the evaluation is positive that we're doing good work and we're making we make substantial impact as it relates to recidivism reduction compared to other counties. But we are looking at how we adjust the workload given some of these reductions in staff and budget to focus our energy kind of in a triage approach to the highest risk and the highest need folks, and which obviously will cause us to provide less services to those lower risk and lower need. So that's the plan in a nutshell. So I'll leave that for questions at this point. We can go from there.
Dale, I didn't hear you say, but I read some of the comments that you've made that you will likely discontinue funding a deputy sheriff that tracks down the failure to appear as the FTAs.
So that position is, I was having an email conversation with Under Sheriff Littlefield the other day that position is likely to go. There's going to be some change in personnel on that. What I want to do is we're continuing that to that point. So my hope is we'll see some restoration of funding in February and we'll be able to sustain it. If I don't see any restoration in those funds, then I'm going to be looking at where do I have the opportunity to make up funds and what are the discretionary programs I have, and that's one of them. Just because the funds aren't there doesn't mean I have any fewer people to supervise in the community. It doesn't mean that I have less need for treatment beds. It doesn't mean I have less needs for POs out there doing field supervision. So the unfortunate piece that I find myself into when I start finding these kinds of reductions is that I have to look at maybe some of those innovative things that we've done as kind of add-ons to, and that's one of them. I think we're one of maybe 2 counties in the state that have a program that does that. And my hope is that I don't get there, but that is not an unlikely scenario.
It's been a successful program.
Yeah, I think it's been successful in some regard. What I've seen out of it thus far, the data would show that it's reduced the recidivism rate for that population that does abscond supervision and we issue warrants for. Prior to that program, the data that I had showed about 58% of the population that we issued warrants for when they are arrested came back with a new criminal charge attached to that arrest. The last data that I had showed that number was knocked down into the low 20s. Now the total number of absconds and arrests didn't go down, but the amount of crimes attached to that arrest did go down, which makes sense because you think about without a position like that, how do warrants get served? There's usually some behavior that calls the police to their location to address the behavior that caused them there. Oh, by the way, you happen to have a warrant and you also have this behavior, and this behavior is often criminal. That's why we got called. And by having somebody going out there and proactively finding them and bringing them in, we're not allowing that behavior to blow up into some episode before they get brought in. So that's the idea behind the program.
Well, let's hope funding is restored.
Yeah, and like I said in my email to the other day, whenever we have the opportunity to have those folks before us, whether that's in individual meetings or in your all legislative meetings, I hope this is a priority for all of us because it certainly impacts our community.
Mr. Chair, I'll move approval of the plan.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Thank you. Thanks. All right, item 2, jail remodel architect. Sir?
Sheriff's Office. I think the pinky is pretty self-explanatory. We're just seeking approval to send out for requests for bids for the architectural portion of the jail remodel. We've been working closely with the company that originally designed that building to garner some language that Mr. Olson then can send out for bid, and so I think it should be a fairly smooth process.
It's amazing this is such a quick item since it took so long to get here. So I'll accept the motion.
Mr. Chair, I move approval.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Thank you.
Thank you.
Have fun.
I think is the next one.
Purchase of a vehicle.
Yeah.
I didn't know you, the dynamic duo of your command is here, so I didn't know who's doing what, so.
Oh, there he is. He's the one that did all the work on this one, so I could have him speak to it. So, yeah.
About as long-winded.
Good.
Littlefield, Under Sheriff, Umatilla County. We are seeking approval for purchase of two mid-size SUVs. For the Sheriff's Office, one is to replace a civil vehicle, which has about $115,000. That particular vehicle, usually about $45,000 per year, the deputy puts on. So by the end of the year, he'll get close to 150, so we need to replace that. It's also to replace an admin vehicle that's approaching 100,000 miles. So we went out for bid a couple weeks ago, received some good bids from a local dealer, Hermiston Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram. Agreed to sell us two Jeep Grand Cherokee midsize SUVs, all-wheel drive. They quoted us at $30,310. I got an email yesterday saying they're going to reduce the price further to about $29,009. So they're going to cover some additional fees that are usually associated with purchasing vehicles. So we're requesting to purchase those two vehicles. We think they'll serve our needs well and last us for the next several years.
Glad to see we have some local bids here.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, I would move approval.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank
you very much.
Item 4, wildfire protection plan update funding.
You may want to repeat the expeditiously comment.
Yeah.
Good morning, Commissioners. Tom Roberts, Emergency Manager, Umatilla County. I'm going to make this expeditious. All those in favor, please. Very simply, what we're asking for, Commissioners, is approval to move forward with a grant application because there's a soft match requirement. The grant that we are applying for is post-wildfire, post-disaster declaration funds through the Hazard Mitigation Program because of last year's wildfires. I'm still waiting for Oregon Office of Emergency Management because of the individual that was overseeing this who departed to get me the actual numbers, so I apologize for not having them. All I have is approximates at this point. But because of the schedule between the grant application timeline and the Board of Commissioners meeting, we needed to go ahead and proceed now. Essentially what we want to do is ask for approval to proceed forward with the project. The total amount that would be expended would not exceed approximately $54,000, with between $13,000 and $14,000 in soft match required, and the federal funds would be in the approximately the $40,000 range. We do not know if we're going to need all of that. Straight up, honestly, that will depend on how things go with contracting. But essentially what we want to do is take a close look at both the east and west community wildfire protection plans and bring those up to par, and we'll be doing that in conjunction with the Oregon Department of Forestry. And so what I'm asking for today is approval to proceed with that application process, and then we will give you better information when it becomes available.
So Tom, what's the money going to be spent for?
The money would be spent on a contract to conduct the work.
With?
I'm sorry.
With whom?
We haven't put it out. We'd have to put it out for bid. Right now, what I'm asking for is the authority to go out and apply for the grant because there's a soft match requirement.
So you're looking for $13,500 from us, is that?
Essentially, but that can be in kind and soft match, so it wouldn't necessarily be a hard match.
So I'm asking this because I'm looking at our CFO right behind you there.
Right.
And I'm just curious, where's that money coming from? You said,
So, for instance, if we were to apply for it, then every time I would go to a meeting, my wages would be counted towards that 13.5. If the Oregon Department of Forestry met with them, their wages would be counted towards it. And it would be essentially the same way that we've been doing the soft match requirements with the hazardous materials emergency preparedness grants that we've been doing, where when we have the exercises, we apply wages and or in-kind funds.
so to verify, we're not writing a check for 13.5?
Correct. Not
Okay.
unless we come up short somewhere, but I don't foresee that being the case.
So most of it will be soft match.
Most or all of it would be soft match, yes.
And this is work that normally is conducted in your office, by your office?
Actually, the last update was a contract. And the only piece that right now is up to date is the Mill Creek area, because that is actually updated by Walla Walla. And a piece of that is incorporated within Umatilla County. But it would be a contract with a company to complete the work.
And how often does it have to be updated?
Every 5 years, yeah, on average.
Mr. Chair, I move approval.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Item 5, Mr. Lanai.
No, he's bringing reinforcements.
Oh, my land.
Good morning, Commissioners. Dan Lanai, Director of Administrative Services. Before you is our request to go ahead and replace our roof. We went out for bid to replace the roof above the Sally Port here, the extension on the building that we had in the 80s, and it's also the roof right above the law library, which is the last piece that has the ballast rock on top of it, and we haven't replaced that one yet, and it does have some leaks in it and stuff. That portion does. Went out to bid. We had one bidder return the bid, and that was Palmer Roofing for $74,400, which is basically what we anticipated the cost would be. And we want to move forwards on that. The one caveat on that is Palmer Roofing is so backlogged that we wouldn't actually be replacing the roof till late spring, probably, once they do several of the jobs they have and the weather starts to turn better. So this will actually take place towards the end of this fiscal year.
Is it leaking now?
It does leak now. They're doing their best to resolve those issues and that.
Mr. Chair, move approval.
This is a different company from the one that replaced
Yes,
the...
this is a local contractor, Palmer, that's done, Palmer and I think, if I remember, Elsom Roofing and Gillespie Roofing are the ones that have done most of the roofing for us on our buildings. And Palmer's only one of those three that bid, I think because right now contractors and roofing, they're so few, they are so busy that they don't really have time to bid. But this is not the contractor we had that did the other portion of the roof.
I'll second Commissioner Schaefer's motion.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, thank you. The boiler?
Next item up is the replacement of the second boiler. So we had the two boilers where the one failed and the other one was working overtime but was still somewhat functional. And we replaced the failed one, and now this one is the second one that's on the way out to replace. So we had two bidders on that. Delta Connects for $105,000 and Mechanical Heating and Air for $92,000. Mechanical Heating and Air is the contractor that replaced the previous boiler, so they're familiar with our system. They also are connecting it to our system, our control system and everything. The Delta Connects, that wasn't included in the bid to connect to our system. So these guys are the less of the two, and plus they're providing all the services that we requested. When we replaced the previous boiler, we got an $8,000 Energy Trust incentive. And right now they're running a special to try to get more people to replace the boilers, so that boiler qualifies for another $4,000. So we're looking at $12,000 energy incentive on that too. So,
Mr. Chair, I move approval.
Second.
Favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay,
thank you, Commissioners.
thank you, gentlemen. All right, item 7, temporary fare assistance.
You want to cover that?
This request is coming from the Fair Office. Due to leaves of employees, they require some additional assistance for a period of time, and so it's before the board to approve a temporary position from September 10th through December 13th for a period not to exceed 20 hours per week.
Mr. Chair, move approval.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 All in favor, say nay. Nay. Item 9.
Hold on, what did you just say?
I said nay.
No, you said all in favor say nay.
No, say aye. All against, say nay. Sorry. Whatever, recorded as a nay, please. Item 9, employment approval, juvenile.
This is coming before the board for approval of an individual for an open position in the juvenile division.
Good morning.
Wait, we had Digna here. Do we still have to listen to Dale?
Yeah, I know.
It's not even here to benefit from the
Potluck.
Digna Moreno, supervisor with the juvenile department. And I'm here to request the approval to hire Roy Gomez. He interviewed about...
We don't really need any specifics for public record.
Okay.
If you have any
I've never done this part
I know,
before.
sorry.
So.
For a position? Is
Yes.
that what you're saying?
Yes, for the position of probation counselor 1.
I believe we discussed this at our staff meeting, did we not? Okay, do we have a motion?
So moved.
second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
All opposed, say nay. All right. Item 10.
No, he did. He voted for it, right?
Yes, I did. Just wanted to show Commissioner Schaefer I knew how to do that. All right, item 10, employment approval,
And this
human
is
services,
similar to the last request.
which we discussed. All right, do we have a motion?
I move we approve.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye. However, seeing as how Amy is standing up there, I would like her to introduce her two guests.
Amy Ashton-Williams, Director, Umatilla County Human Services, and with me, Nicole Morris, who is our new mental health counselor with our school-based health center that's located at Sunridge Middle School and also at Pendleton High School, and also Haley Hartley, who will be our other mental health counselor.
Well, welcome, both of you.
And thank you for the approval.
Did we vote?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Congratulations, by the way.
And welcome to the county.
That was the most expeditious.
Yeah, they should take notes.
I wish they were here to witness it. All right, item 11, bilingual personnel policy.
Good morning, Jennifer Blake, Human Resources Director. So before you is a request to authorize a brand new bilingual English-Spanish policy that will relate to the AFSCME Local 3742 contract and detail out how those folks are able to get the bilingual incentive that's been negotiated in their contract.
Mr. Chair, move approval.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, this is the point at which we would normally hear from commissioners. Meeting's adjourned.